The scent of roses and the chill of champagne. I can still close my eyes and feel it. The cool air of the hotel suite. The faint, sweet perfume of 100 red roses that had been arranged just for her. It was our 5th anniversary, and I had planned what I thought would be the perfect surprise for my wife, Sarah. Little did I know, she had a different kind of surprise waiting for me. One that would not just shatter my world, but turn it inside out, leaving me lost in the wreckage. I had spent 3 weeks, 3 grueling, obsessive weeks, planning this. I'm a high school teacher, and my wife is a lawyer who works insane hours. She sacrifices so much, not just for herself, but for our future, and I wanted to give her a moment of pure, unadulterated peace. This wasn't just a surprise, it was a testament to my love, meticulously orchestrated with spreadsheets, backup plans, and late-night calls to the hotel concierge at the downtown Fairmont. I didn't just book a suite. I booked the penthouse suite, a space of marble and glass, designed for opulence. I arranged for her favorite champagne, a vintage Dom Perignon from 2010 that I'd saved for 3 months to afford. I had the concierge lay rose petals across the plush bedsheets, a breathtaking sea of crimson against the pristine white. I even managed to get her grandmother's antique music box, a small, darkwood treasure that played a whimsical waltz from her childhood, and set it up on the nightstand. The irony of all this planning, all this effort, feels like a punch to the gut now. While I was obsessing over thread counts and champagne vintages, my wife was planning her own, more devastating surprise. I arrived at the suite 2 hours early, because that's the kind of man I am. The type who shows up ahead of schedule, who double-checks every little detail, who makes sure the lighting is absolutely perfect. I had this whole vision playing in my mind. Sarah, exhausted and stressed after a long deposition, walking into this romantic sanctuary I had built just for her. I even rehearsed my lines in the mirror. Happy anniversary, beautiful. You've been working so hard, and I just wanted to remind you that you're the most important thing in my life. God, I was such an idiot. A complete, unsuspecting, lovesick fool, oblivious to the fact that I was walking into the crime scene of my own marriage. My key card slid into the slot, and the light blinked green. I pushed the door open, a wide grin already on my face, ready for a moment that was still hours away. The champagne was perfectly chilled, a string of tiny bubbles winking from the bottle. The roses looked incredible, their fragrance filling the air. Everything was exactly as I had arranged it, except for the clothing scattered across the floor. Sarah's blazer was a splash of tailored black on a chair, her silk scarf lay like a discarded ribbon, her skirt a rumpled heap on the carpet. And then, a man's blazer, one I didn't recognize, was crumpled by the couch. The smile vanished from my face. My brain couldn't process what I was seeing. It was like trying to solve a complex math problem in a language I didn't speak. Then came the sounds from the bedroom. Sarah's laugh. It was a sound I knew so well. But here, it was different. Breathier. More intimate in a way I hadn't heard in months. The sound felt like a physical assault, a low-frequency hum of betrayal vibrating through the floorboards and into my bones. Every instinct told me to leave, to back out of that door and pretend I had never seen anything. But a terrible, morbid curiosity pulled me forward, a relentless force that felt like sleepwalking. Each step felt like moving through concrete. The door was cracked open just enough to reveal a sliver of the room, just enough to see everything I never wanted to see. Sarah was on the bed, the one covered in my lovingly placed rose petals. She was with Marcus, my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, the guy who had been my best man, the man who called me brother at every family gathering and slapped my back when he told jokes. My mind reeled, trying to connect the dots of the impossible. But there they were. They weren't just having sex, they were making love. Real, passionate, connected love. The way Sarah and I used to be in the beginning, before work and bills and the routine of life had killed the fire between us. She was looking at him with an expression I hadn't seen on her face in years, a look of pure adoration. She was touching him like he was precious. I stood there, frozen, for maybe 30 seconds, a lifetime, watching my marriage die in real time. The waltz from her grandmother's music box echoed in the silence of my head. Sarah saw me first. Her face went through a horrible progression of emotions. Confusion, recognition, terror, and then, a chilling flicker of something that looked almost like relief. "David," she whispered, pulling the sheet up to cover herself. Marcus turned, and I watched my brother-in-law's face crumble. "Jesus Christ, David." I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just stood there, an idiot in the middle of my own anniversary surprise, surrounded by rose petals and a chilled bottle of champagne, watching my wife scramble to find words that could possibly make sense of what I was seeing. "How long?" I asked. My voice sounded foreign, like it belonged to someone else. Sarah sat up, clutching the sheet. She had a calculating look on her face, as if she was trying to weigh the damage. "David, please let me explain." "How long, Sarah?" She looked away. It was Marcus who answered, sitting on the edge of the bed, his head in his hands. 6 months. Since Emma's birthday party. My sister Emma's birthday party. I remembered that night. I remembered Marcus and Sarah talking by the kitchen island while I was outside grilling burgers. I remembered thinking how nice it was that they got along so well. I remembered Sarah laughing at something he said, and thinking how much I loved her laugh. 6 months. The day our marriage began to end. 6 months. I repeated, the words tasting like ash. Our anniversary is today. I know. Sarah said, and she started to cry. David, I know how this looks. How does it look? I laughed, and it came out as a hollow, bitter bark. It looks like my wife and my sister's husband in the hotel room I booked for our anniversary. How else should it look? The music box was still playing in the background, a soft, whimsical waltz that her grandmother used to dance to. I walked over and slammed the lid shut. I was going to tell you, Sarah said. We both were. We just didn't know how. Were you going to tell me before or after I gave you the anniversary gift I've been planning for 3 weeks? She looked confused. What gift? I gestured around the room. This. All of this. The time I took off work. The savings I spent on this suite because I wanted to show you how much I love you. The silence that followed was the loudest sound I've ever heard. Marcus finally stood up, starting to put on his clothes. David, you have every right to hate me. I hate myself. Do you love her? I asked him. He stopped buttoning his shirt. What? Do you love my wife? Marcus looked at Sarah, then back at me. Yes. And you? I asked Sarah. Do you love him? She was crying harder now. David, please. Answer me. Yes. That's when I finally understood. This wasn't some mistake. This wasn't a moment of weakness or a drunken one-night stand. This was real. They were in love. A real, actual, soul-crushing kind of love. And I was the idiot husband, so busy planning anniversaries that I missed my wife falling out of love with me and into love with someone else. I sank into the chair I had positioned perfectly for champagne toasts, the chair where I was supposed to watch her face light up with joy. Where were you supposed to be today? I asked Sarah. The Morrison deposition. Working late. And Emma. I said, where does she think Marcus is? Marcus was fully dressed now. Golf weekend with the guys from work. I nodded, a cold, hard knot forming in my stomach. So you've both been lying to everyone for 6 months. It wasn't supposed to happen, Sarah said, as if that made a difference. We tried to stop. No, you didn't. You were going to keep meeting in hotel rooms and lying to my face and letting me plan anniversaries like an idiot while you build a whole relationship behind my back. Neither of them said anything. I need to call Emma, Marcus said quietly. No, I said. I need to call Emma. She's my sister. Her husband just destroyed her marriage along with mine. I pulled out my phone and stared at my sister's contact information. Emma, who'd been trying to get pregnant for 2 years. Emma, who'd been seeing a fertility specialist and crying to me about how much she wanted to give Marcus a baby. The kind of person who thought her biggest problem was ovulation timing. Please don't, Marcus said. Let me tell her myself. When? In another 6 months, after you've had time to plan the perfect breakup surprise. I was being cruel, and I knew it, but I didn't care. I wanted them to feel the ground disappear beneath their feet the way mine had. But I couldn't make that call. Not yet. Not while I was sitting in a hotel room full of rose petals, looking at my wife wrapped in a sheet, still smelling like another man. Get out, I said instead. Both of you. Get out of my anniversary surprise. They got dressed quickly and quietly. Sarah kept trying to catch my eye, but I was staring at the champagne bucket. Dom Perignon 2010. Her favorite. I had saved for 3 months to afford it. I'll pack my things and stay at my mother's, Sarah said from the doorway. Good. We need to talk about Dash. No, we don't. You made your choice 6 months ago. You just kept lying to me about it. After they left, I sat in that perfect anniversary setup for another hour. I drank the champagne straight from the bottle, the bitter taste a perfect match for my mood. I scattered the rose petals with my feet, destroying the perfect design. I opened the music box and let it play the same waltz over and over until the mechanism wound down. Then I called the front desk and asked for a late checkout. I was going to need time to figure out how to tell everyone I knew that my marriage was over and my brother-in-law was the reason why. The worst part wasn't even the betrayal. The worst part was understanding that while I'd been planning our future, Sarah had been planning her escape. And I'd been too busy being the perfect husband to notice that she didn't want a perfect husband anymore. She wanted Marcus. I didn't sleep for 3 days. I checked into a different hotel because I couldn't face our bedroom, our kitchen, or any of the places where Sarah had probably been living her lies. I just sat in a generic Marriott room, staring at my phone, trying to figure out how to destroy 2 marriages with a single conversation. Emma called me on Tuesday morning. Her voice sounded so normal, so trusting. Hey, have you heard from Marcus? He was supposed to come home from his golf trip yesterday, but he's not answering his phone. Something did happen, Emma. Your husband fell in love with my wife, and they've been building a life together while we planned family dinners and holiday parties like idiots. But I couldn't say it. Not over the phone. Not when I could hear the genuine concern in her voice. I'm sure he's fine. I lied. Maybe his phone died. Oh, how did your anniversary surprise go? You were so excited about it. The words caught in my throat. I had to hang up. Sarah had been texting me constantly, paragraphs of explanations and apologies. I deleted every message without reading past the first line. There was nothing she could say that would change what I saw in that hotel room. Marcus sent shorter texts. I'm sorry. I know I destroyed everything. Please let me explain. Explain what? That he loved her? He already told me that. That it wasn't planned. It happened anyway. That he felt guilty? Good. I finally went home Wednesday night. Our house felt like a museum of my stupidity. There were traces of Sarah everywhere. Her coffee cup in the sink, her book on the nightstand, her hair tie on the bathroom counter. But she might as well have been a stranger. How many nights had she kissed me goodnight after texting Marcus? How many mornings had she told me she loved me while planning to see him later? I found her laptop in her home office. She'd forgotten to log out of her email. I knew I shouldn't have looked, but my wife had been with my brother-in-law for 6 months, so privacy felt like a pretty flexible concept. The emails went back exactly 6 months, just like Marcus said. It started innocently enough, thank you notes, a recipe. But by the 3rd week, the tone had shifted. I spent 6 hours reading every single email. They built an entire relationship through her laptop. They talked about books, movies, dreams, and fears. They sent each other photos. By month 3, they were saying, I love you. By month 5, they were discussing the logistics of leaving their spouses. I know we need to tell them soon, Sarah had written 3 weeks ago. But David has been so excited about our anniversary. He's been planning something special, and I don't want to ruin it by asking for a divorce right before. The cruelty of it all was breathtaking. The worst email was from 2 weeks ago. David asked me what I wanted for our anniversary. I didn't know what to say. How do you tell someone you want them to let you go? He's such a good man, Marcus. He deserves so much better than what I'm doing to him. But I can't help it. I love you in a way I never loved him. Not even in the beginning. She was right about one thing. I didn't deserve this. I printed every single email, all 847 of them. Then I drove to Emma's house. I handed her the stack of printed papers. I watched my sister's face change as she read the story of her husband's betrayal. The confusion shifted to understanding, then to disbelief, then to something that looked like physical pain. No, she whispered. This isn't. Marcus wouldn't. Keep reading. She flipped through the pages, her face contorting with every new revelation. She got to the I love you emails and made a sound like someone had punched her in the stomach. He's been lying to me for 6 months, she said, her voice hollow. Every golf weekend, every late night at work, every time he said he loved me. We sat there in silence for a while, 2 people whose lives had been completely destroyed by the 2 people they trusted most. We've been trying to have a baby, she said, tears streaming down her face. For 2 years, I've been tracking ovulation and taking hormones, thinking a baby would make Marcus happy. And the whole time, he was in love with your wife. That hit me like a truck. While Emma had been trying to build a family with Marcus, he'd been planning his exit. I drove home and packed all of Sarah's things, every piece of clothing, every book, every decorative pillow. I put it all in boxes and left it on the front porch with a note. Don't contact me again. My lawyer will be in touch. Then I changed all the locks. The next morning, I hired a divorce attorney. Margaret Chin came highly recommended for high conflict cases, she said. Adultery doesn't matter as much as people think in no-fault divorce states. But if your wife tries to claim alimony, the affair could work in your favor. Do you have proof? I handed her copies of the emails. Jesus, she said after reading a few pages. This shows premeditation. It shows she was actively deceiving you while making financial decisions that affected both of you. This is helpful. I hadn't even thought about money. I was still stuck on the emotional devastation. But Margaret was right. Sarah made 3 times what I did as a teacher. In a normal divorce, I might have been entitled to support, but normal divorces don't involve 847 documented emails of adultery with your brother-in-law. The news spread through our families like wildfire. My parents were horrified. Sarah's parents were demanding to know my side. Mutual friends started taking sides or avoiding us entirely. The worst conversation was with my mom. I don't understand, she kept saying. Sarah was always so sweet. And Marcus, he's been like a son to us. Well, Mom, your son-in-law has been sleeping with your daughter-in-law for 6 months. So maybe he's not who we thought he was. David, don't be crude. I'm not being crude. I'm being accurate. We're the opposite of okay. The divorce was finalized 6 months later. Sarah got to marry Marcus in a small ceremony. Emma and I got to rebuild our lives from scratch. The financial settlement was better than I'd expected, thanks to those emails. Sarah didn't contest the divorce or ask for alimony. The house sold, and I had enough for a deposit on a small apartment. Emma got less lucky. Marcus fought her on everything, the house, his pension, even their dog. He's being vindictive, she told me, as if wanting fair compensation after your husband destroys your marriage with your sister-in-law is somehow unreasonable. The real problem was everything else. I couldn't go to family gatherings anymore. How do you sit at Thanksgiving dinner with your ex-wife and the man who destroyed your marriage? My parents tried to stay neutral, which meant they ended up disappointing everyone. They're still family, they'd say, inviting Sarah and Marcus to Christmas dinner. Emma and I stopped going. It was easier than watching them pretend everything was normal while my ex-wife and her new husband carved the turkey. Emma handled it differently. She moved to Portland and started over completely. New job, new life where nobody knew her as the woman whose husband left her for her sister-in-law. 2 years out from the worst day of my life, I was still stuck. I tried online dating, but every profile felt like a lie. How do you explain to someone new that your marriage ended when you walked into your anniversary surprise and found your wife with your sister's husband? I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Kim, who specialized in infidelity trauma. You're describing symptoms of PTSD from betrayal trauma, she told me. When someone you trust completely violates that trust, your brain responds the same way it would to any other trauma. Normal. It was normal to wake up at 3 a.m. wondering what signs I'd missed. It was normal to analyze every interaction for signs of deception. It was normal to feel like an idiot for being the only person who didn't know. The hardest part, I told Dr. Kim, is that I still miss her sometimes. Not the woman who cheated on me, but the woman I thought I married. The woman who didn't exist. Dr. Kim was right. Finding out about the affair retroactively changed our entire history together. Every happy memory from the final year of our marriage was contaminated by the knowledge of what Sarah was hiding. Our last vacation together, our 5th wedding anniversary, all of it was a lie. The worst part was the isolation. I lost my entire social circle along with my marriage. Work became my refuge, but even that was complicated. When word got around that Mr. Peterson was getting divorced because his wife had cheated with his brother-in-law, it became the most interesting gossip of the semester. "Is it true your wife ran away with your sister's husband?" a sophomore asked me one day after class. "My personal life isn't an appropriate classroom discussion," I said. "But is it true, though?" Yes, it was true. I'm still here in my small apartment, 2 years after the fact, writing this cautionary tale. I followed Sarah and Marcus online, torturing myself with photos of their new life together. They looked happy. They looked like people who'd found their soulmates and were living their dream life. They looked like the betrayal had been worth it. "You need to stop checking their social media," Emma told me during one of our calls. "What if they don't have doubts? What if they're happy? Then that's their business. Your business is figuring out how to be happy without them." She was right, but it was easier said than done. I don't know if I'll ever get married again. I don't know if I'll ever trust anyone enough to plan anniversary surprises or believe someone when they say they love me. But what I do know is this: love doesn't conquer all. Trust can be shattered in an instant. And sometimes, the people closest to you are the ones planning your destruction. And when you walk into that hotel room expecting to celebrate 5 years of marriage and instead find your wife in bed with your brother-in-law, you learn that some surprises destroy everything you thought you knew about your own life. The rose petals are still sticking to my shoes, even now. A note on healing and self-worth. Life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. It's in those moments of profound hurt and loss that we discover our true resilience. While betrayal can shake you to your core, remember that your story isn't over. You are the author of your next chapter, and you have the power to write a new, more hopeful one. Use the pain not to break you, but to build you into a stronger, more compassionate, and wiser person. Trust yourself to heal, and never stop believing in your own capacity for happiness.